Hello, this is Tarek Fayoumi, and with me today is director Niels Arden Oplev, the director of the Millennium Trilogy, Held for Ransom, Flatliners, and today we're going to be talking about his newest feature, Rose. And Niels, it is such an honor for you to be joining me here today. Honestly, I am, and with Rose just speaks to me in a lot of ways because I admit I am someone who's on the spectrum, an advocate for those on the spectrum. And there's a lot of meaning to Rose. And I wanted to ask you because when I watched Rose is one exhilarating ride of finding light. And with Rose being a film based on experience, in based on a personal experience of your life, how did you structure the emotional aspect of the actress Sophia Grabel, who plays Inger, to grapple with her turmoil in her performance?
Well, that is a good question. I think Sophia, when her and I joined up to make the film and to start rehearsing and then shooting, she was she felt that this was the most challenging part or role ever, and kind of like what I wanted her to do was to let go of anything that she's done before and let go of what actors normally do, kind of like make an arc and have us said, oh, here this scene I'm in this part of the development and blah blah blah. I wanted her just to be in the moment all the time and shift rapidly so that she had so many different thoughts going from fear and angst to joy and back to angst, like in a matter of really seconds. I wanted her to shift all the time in that sense so that her face, what do you call it, the expressions, you could see like all these different thoughts that you don't know what is, but you have a feeling that you have a sense of what's going on with her, like from worry to like, so like her face shifts much more than had she played just like normal regular character in a film. And I think that actually worked really well. I mean, Sophie thinks that this is her biggest acting ever, and we kind of did takes that was like very expressive, and then we did some takes that was less and stuff, but in the editing we picked all the most expressive takes, and it
And
really works. It really
and
works.
and also from when I was watching Rose, I could kind of just feel that emotional side so much. And I know, and after watching the Millennium Trilogy, and I revisited that not too long ago, which you did, and before watching Rose, and I know that from reading your profile with IMDb, I know that from one of your quotes that you are more interested in the human over suspense. And now with the settings and dynamics of Rose, what was your approach uh, to developing the human aspect over suspense in Rose? Because in Rose, I see the suspense more of like the personal stuff among when they're on their trip, and then there's like moments where Rose can kind of find her happiness, moments where she could realize there's a connection in light, and to an extent though, like how did what do you think was the most important aspect into developing the humanistic characteristics over the suspense of the film?
Well, I mean, I think that there is a natural suspense in the film in the sense of that people are like, is she going to survive this trip?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the minute she's like saying, I have to sit so I can't jump out of the bus, you're like, whoa, like
Yes.
this is, you kind of introduce the possibility of somebody, you know, maybe not wanting to commit suicide, but is afraid to commit an act that leads to suicide in some weird way. And that's not the same. That's not really not the same.
Oh, not at
So,
all.
but I think that suspense is there. But the most important thing for me with the whole film was really to portray Inger, who is inspired by my sister who has struggled with schizophrenia
Oh,
for 4 decades, and
I'm so
to
sorry.
portray her in a way where you kind of moved, you got beyond the diagnosis and started seeing her as this fantastic human being behind. And I think that the whole bus trip and the 8 days confined, and the fact that she comes back to Paris, where suddenly they are in France and she's the only one who speaks this language, and everybody else is kind of like a little handicapped, if you could say, because they don't know, they can't even fucking read a menu. and
Oh, for
and
sure.
and there's something about that she gets the upper hand when they are in France because she
Yeah.
has intimate knowledge of French culture and language, and that flip flops the normal dynamic between a person who struggles with mental illness and the so called normal people.
And
It flip flops the power.
and
That makes it all more human.
and I will say, and even with that, I completely agree. Like as someone, because I'm an advocate for those of the spectrum, and I try to inspire those as well who have learning disabilities or struggles. But then I realize, like even within Inger, despite where she's struggling, there's a talent that lies, and the way it is shown in your film is just a portrait of her mind finding her evolving patterns where there is a form of light, even though it may not be as like attention grabbing for those on a trip around her. But also, what's importantly is Inger is finding her place of connection. I
Yeah,
felt, film.
yeah.
And but
I
with
mean, another thing that's really important in the film for me is like, in the bus, the people don't know they're going to travel with, a woman suffer from schizophrenia and also has a bit of Tourette. Like she says stuff that other
yes,
people don't say. And then first, like some of people on the bus are like, oh my God, I can't do this. And other people are like, okay, let's wait and see. But as the bus trip evolves, Inga becomes like the hero in that sense. When she reopens the museum, and when she sings in the bus way on the way back to Paris, it's like kind of like it's a moment of triumph for her. And I think that she wins over people in the bus is a very important part of the film that kind of says, if you dare to open up for something that's unnormal, then you might enrich your own life. And that's really the most important thing. And that's really what I wanted to show with my sister, because it's so easy to see the illness, but it's so much harder for people to see the human being behind, you
and
know.
that it truly is. And even with Lena Maria Christensen, who plays Ellen, Inger's sister, how are you able to like with their dynamic? How are you able to create the invigorating connection between the two? Because deep down, I can tell that that Ellen in the film is having her moments where Inger is becoming a struggle, but then at the same time, I was able to tell throughout the experience that she has in her mind that Inger's her sister and that she'll always love her. But at the same time, in their setting of Paris, where do you think stands as the hardest for Ellen on a trip to Paris?
Well, I think that Ellen and Vaughn they represent freedom for Inger, and to wander into the unknown, and therefore experience something unusual, whereas the mother character in the film represents total safety, medicine, and nothing must ever harm Inger. Like she can't make decisions herself. We have to protect her. and Brown and Ellen stands for particular Ellen for Inger made her decision herself to go on this trip, and we are here to watch her. And is there a risk? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. And of course, with mental illness, it's very unpredictable what can happen, because a mental ill person can be extremely angst over something that you don't know why and react in a way that's unnormal again, and can that create a dangerous situation? Absolutely, yes, it can. but
And
but I mean, I think for Ellen, it's like that balance of trying to guard somebody. She is her guardian. At the same time, she wants to give her freedom, and that balance between protecting and letting somebody go, even if it can go wrong, somebody you love, that's a very big emotional squeeze to sit in.
oh, it truly is. And I will tell you now, Niels, that even like with Rose, your faithfulness is sincere and prominent. But with the film, where do you feel like it stands like within today's society? Like those when it comes to those who have limitations like Inger, because one thing I will say, watching this and how she's on this trip, kind of like I'm even someone who gets overwhelmed by crowds or certain settings or whatnot. And I feel now that we're in 2023, after many years of COVID and people's patients have kind of went in weird directions after COVID being on lockdown, stuff like that. And like, do you feel like people like Inger, like it's obvious, like her mind is clear that she has to be in routine, she has to be in pattern.
Yeah,
But what do you find though for Inger is her is one of the most like authentic aspects of trying to handle her schizophrenia.
I think that the way the film portrays that, there's this, she has a fantastic day when they go to Normandy, and she opens the museum and she sings in the bus. And then the next day, she has a terrible day in the morning. And Brown is like, oh, but everything was just going so well. And I think it's really hard for people who doesn't know mental illness as well as as somebody who has kind of lived with it, or been very close to somebody who lived with it, that it shifts in an unexplainable way. Things can go from things works really well, and the mental ill person has a really good time, and then suddenly it just shifts, and for no external reason, it can become really, really bad and difficult. And I wanted to portray that in the film, that nothing is easy with when you suffer from this kind of illness, nothing is going to be easy, and no result is given on beforehand. So that it's kind of like you don't know how one situation will affect Inger. Like she can be quite strong in one situation, and then be nearly like a scared child or something in the next situation. So it's those shifts, I think it's very important that the film portrays, that like you could say throughout the whole film, Inger's development is very, very little. I mean, when she comes back to her her living, the place she lives, which is kind of protected living, she's nearly the same as when she left. I mean, and for a film character in normal dramatic writing, they have to have this arc and development, and Inger doesn't really have that, you know. But she has a very tiny development that you feel that maybe she is starting to free herself from that inner voice named Golden Sun.
Yes. and and also like there's a moment, like in the film where Inger is trying to find her own connection. And this question that always sticks with me to the film is when she asked a question to someone, where she asked, "Am I still your rose?" That question truly spoke to me because it's just like it's because to me that shows that Inger knows that she's in a place like in a turmoil where it's hard for her to escape. But at the
Yeah,
same time, it's like she feels there's still something close to her heart.
yeah.
And and what was but with that alone, um, what was your most provoking aspect in your eyes as a director with Rose? And because, like even when you've done the Millennium trilogy, I come to realize you really know how to grapple your characters with their personality, how their personality grows continuing like through a film, and even how you did in the Millennium series. But with Rose, though, like what was the most thought-provoking aspect in your eyes as a director?
I think the humor.
The
I
humor.
think that when I started writing, I wanted to write a really serious, and I thought it was going to be kind of serious, dry film. And I still think it's a serious film. In it's because it's an emotional, sincere film, and therefore it is a serious film. But what kind of caught me by surprise, and what I kind of had to go with, was that every time Inga opened her mouth, she created some kind of absurdly funny situation without her intention to do it. It's just that her world collides with the so-called normal world, which is not as normal as the normal world claim it is,
Exactly. And
and
especially
and that creates this collision. And I think
oh,
that the fact that the film became so humorous when it's yet dealing with a person, the main character is a person with schizophrenia, that is unique. I don't know of any other film that would dare to do that in a way. and
mhm,
uh, and it that was an enormous chance for me to take artistically, because I was afraid that people were going to see it as a comedy, or that somebody was going to say I had exploited my sisters or something like that and made a comedy out of mental illness. And that would not be my intention at all, and of course that would be kind of horrible. But so to balance the film in that sense, that Inga is really a hero in the film. But I think that what succeeded is that the audience comes to love her so much, because she's just honest in a way that normal people are not. And she's just honest in this way, like, she just says stuff that,
yes.
like when they at a dinner table and he can't find out what this dessert is, and it's called croque and bus, and then she says, well, it's kind of like this kind of baked goods tower, but it also refers to a woman who's been with too many men. Nobody would say that at a dinner table, right? And then she's
Not at all. And like
shocked.
the thing where I have respect for with Inger and this, what I really found touching is, in moments when she's saying such certain words, it felt like a moment of taking a grain of salt, where it's like she doesn't know any better, but also at the same time, she's being honest.
Yeah.
Her mind resorts to honesty now, even though it may be oversharing. That's just how her mind operates. kind of
But I mean, also some of the stuff she says to the
yes.
boy is totally out
Yeah,
of.
stuff you shouldn't know about, but but honestly, it's a wonderful film, and I just like how it finds its light, because I'm someone who can relate, even in which how hard it can be for those who have limitations mentally. And this one just shows it. You really have done an amazing job at creating a portrait of based on your life, on what life can be, when it comes to someone that truly has to grapple with their challenges that they struggle to grapple. And I will tell you, Niels, that Rose is honestly one of the most surreal films I have seen recently, and it was an honor to see it, and also it was an honor to be interviewing you here today after, especially because before my critic days, I've been fascinated by your works and how you've really grown. I believe that you're the one who has grown the Millennium Trilogy because you continued with the trilogy, and then from that point on, your projects are truly about your vision, and you're just someone who is true to your craft as finding the human aspects of your project. And Rose is just magnificent.
Thank you very much. It was
You're
great
welcome.
meeting you and talking to you.
It was
And
great meeting. It was great meeting you too. And for those who want to see Rose, it is currently it'll be available digitally December 26th, but it's now playing in select cities. And by the way, Niels, this film is just magnificent and touching. And again, I thank you again for being here with me today. And who knows, maybe in the near future we'll talk again, I'm sure.
that
Definitely.
sounds good.
You have
I
a
hope
wonderful
you're
day, sir.
ready.
Yep,
Thank
see
you
you.
very much.